Dr. Sammer loved the unknown. He was a psychiatrist known for his unusual methods and strong determination. He found peace in the complex world of the human mind. He embraced the Blackwood Pines Psychiatric Hospital, a place that was both his safe haven and his challenge. His reputation was well known. He was a symbol of hope for those considered too far gone. He explored the deepest parts of the human mind, not afraid of the hidden fears within. Dr. Sammer had earned the respect of his fellow doctors. They quietly shared stories of his successes and his ability to see the truth behind the illusions. The storm raged outside, a powerful mix of wind and rain hitting the hospital windows. Inside, an unnatural stillness filled the air, heavy with anticipation and worry. Dr. Sammer sat at his desk, looking at the small file of the new patient. The silence from the holding room, usually filled with quiet sobs or distant screams, was unsettling. It was as if the storm itself was holding its breath, waiting, watching. The file offered no comfort, no explanation for the unsettling feeling that came with the new arrival. It simply read, "John Doe, admitted February 3rd, 2025. No history, no family, no reason for him being within the cold, sterile walls of Blackwood Pines." It was a mystery that bothered Dr. Sammer, a puzzle box with no clear way to open it. He decided to see the patient. Curiosity, mixed with a growing sense of foreboding, pushed him forward. As he walked down the dimly lit hallway, each step seemed to echo with an unnerving clarity. The storm outside reached its peak, thunder booming like a warning.
"You know who I am, Doctor. We've met before."
The figure in the shadows didn't move as Dr. Sammer entered. The only sign of life was the slight rise and fall of his chest. He sat very still, his face hidden by the dim light and the shadows that covered him. Dr. Sammer walked closer, his footsteps echoing in the silence of the room. "Good evening," Dr. Sammer said cautiously, his voice sounding strange in the stillness. "My name is Dr. Sammer. I'm here to help." The figure didn't move. The doctor continued, his unease growing with each passing second. "Can you tell me your name?" The figure slowly lifted his head. The dim light reflected off a pair of eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of many lifetimes. They stared right through Dr. Sammer, as if seeing into his very soul.
"Troubles me. Doctor, you misunderstand. I'm here to remind you, to show you. Do you remember the accident, Doctor? The one that broke your world?"
Dr. Sammer, though shaken, tried to stay calm. He pulled up a chair, placing himself directly in the small amount of light that entered the room. "I assure you, sir, we haven't met," Dr. Sammer said, his voice shaking slightly. "But I'm here to listen. Tell me what's bothering you." The man chuckled, a dry, brittle sound that sent chills down Dr. Sammer's spine. Dr. Sammer recoiled at the words, a cold sweat breaking out on his skin. The accident. It was a memory he had buried deep within his mind, a memory that haunted his dreams and fueled his nightmares. The car crash that had taken the lives of his wife and daughter. How could this stranger, this John Doe, know about his deepest pain? "Stop it," Dr. Sammer whispered, his composure finally breaking. The next few days were a blur of confusion and dread. Dr. Sammer became consumed by the mysterious John Doe, spending every waking moment trying to solve the mystery of the man who knew his deepest secret. He studied the thin file, but it offered no new information, no clue to the man's identity or his connection to Dr. Sammer's past.
"There's no one here by that name, Doctor. Are you feeling okay?"
He tried to talk to the orderlies, to anyone who had interacted with the patient, but he was met with blank stares and uneasy shrugs. It was as if John Doe had never existed, his presence wiped from the hospital's memory. But Dr. Sammer knew what he had seen. He had heard the man's voice, felt the weight of his gaze. He wasn't going crazy. Or was he? Doubt started to creep into his mind, whispering doubts and fears. He held on to the memory of that encounter, the only evidence he had that he wasn't losing his mind. Then people started to disappear.
"It started subtly at first,"
Dr. Sama found himself caught in a terrifying spiral, his hold on reality slipping away. The hospital, once his safe place, now felt like a prison. The staff, once familiar and comforting, now seemed distant, their eyes filled with pity and fear. S3 as Dr. Thompson. John Doe. Dr. Sama, there's no one here by that name. He tried to confide in his colleagues, to share what was happening, but his words were met with dismissive shrugs and concerned frowns. His pleas for help were met with thinly veiled concern, their words echoing the doubts in his own mind. Was he losing his mind? Had the darkness he'd faced for so long finally claimed him? The thought terrified him, leaving him on the edge of madness. The once busy corridors of Blackwood Pines now seemed eerily deserted. The whispers and murmurs of the patients were replaced by an unnerving silence. Dr. Sama wandered the halls, his footsteps echoing off the cold, sterile walls, each step pulling him deeper into his own mind. He searched for answers, for any proof that John Doe existed, that he wasn't imagining things. He scoured patient records, reviewed security footage, even interrogated the few remaining staff members, but his efforts led nowhere, his pleas for help dismissed as delusions brought on by stress and exhaustion.
Dr. Samer, there's no one here by that name.
Desperation ate at him, fueling his paranoia. The hospital, once a place of healing, now felt like a hunting ground, the walls themselves watching him, closing in on him. He was trapped, alone with his fear and the unsettling certainty that he was losing his mind. Shaking, his heart pounding in his chest, Dr. Sama reached for the file. His fingers touched the cold, smooth surface, and a jolt of electricity shot through him. This was it. This was the proof he had been looking for, the evidence that he wasn't crazy. He opened the file, his eyes scanning the pages, desperate for answers. But instead of finding clarity, he was pulled deeper into his own madness. The file, once blank, was now filled with his own handwriting, his neat, precise writing, filled with details of his life, his fears, his darkest secrets. He flipped through the pages, each one a mirror reflecting his own shattered mind back at him, his childhood trauma, his failed marriage, the accident that had taken his family. It was all there, written in his own handwriting, a testament to his descent into madness. As he stared at the final page, a single photograph slipped out, falling to the floor. He bent to pick it up, his breath catching in his throat as he recognized the face staring back at him. Dr. Sama stared at the photograph, his mind spinning, the line between what was real and what wasn't completely gone. The hospital around him seemed to change and distort, the walls closing in, suffocating him. He was John Doe, and John Doe was him. But how? Why? His reflection in the window no longer showed his own face, but the haunting image of the man who had tormented him, who had invaded his mind, his life. He was trapped in a terrifying hall of mirrors, his own sanity the price of admission. The storm outside continued, mirroring the storm within him. The wind howled, a sad cry that seemed to echo his own descent into madness. He was lost, adrift in a sea of his own broken memories and shattered perceptions.